to the 3MT final at Ulster University. This is the third 3MT final at Ulster, but it's the very first virtual 3MT final that we've ever done, and perhaps it's also the first one to be streamed live in the UK, so you're all part of a very special experience tonight. Hello to all of you watching. You are registered, you are watching this streamed event, and it is fantastic to have you all here. I know that many of our finalists, all of our finalists, are tuning in tonight, so good luck to each and every one of you who've made it this far. Now, simplicity, they say, is the key to good communication. Why use 5 words when you can use 1? Well, that's basically the same principle that's applied to the 3-minute thesis, except why use 100,000 words when 450 will do, or basically 3 minutes. That's what our finalists had to do. They've had to condense all of their research. The PhD would normally be 100,000 words, and condense it into 450 words, or 3 minutes, which is very, very difficult indeed. So I am very, very excited to share our finalists' presentations with you tonight, our virtual audience. Our judges who will be deciding on the winner and indeed the runner-up, they're standing by, they can't wait. But you too, you can be involved in the judging. You can judge the People's Choice Award tonight. After this final is over and we've finished watching, you will receive a link into your inbox which will allow you to vote. So further details on that will come at the end. Now, the Doctoral College will also be tweeting live during the event, so do follow them on @Ulster Uni PhD and share your thoughts on our fantastic experience tonight. Before we move on any further, I'm now going to hand over to Marie Murphy, the Dean and Director of the Doctoral College, as I know that she has a welcome message for you.
Good evening. My name is Marie Murphy and I'm Dean of Postgraduate Research at Ulster University. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all tonight to the 3-minute thesis final. I should have been welcoming you to the Hilton Hotel in Belfast at the end of our week-long Festival of PhD Research and for our inaugural PhD Researcher Awards, in which the 3-minute thesis was to be our showcase event. Alas, COVID had other plans, and so instead, I'm welcoming you from my living room. But I couldn't resist the opportunity, after so many weeks of lockdown, to get out the little black dress and join in the celebrations. When the Doctoral College was launched in 2017, allowing our PhD researchers to take part in this international 3-minute thesis competition was high on my wish list. And through the determination and dedication of Lisa Thompson and her team in the college, the competition has developed, capturing the imagination of our PhD researchers and showcasing not only the research, but the communication skills of our wonderful PhD researcher community. The 3-minute thesis has also put doctoral education at Ulster on the map. In our very first year, our winner, Temalola Olanrawaju, was in the top 12 in the UK. Our winner last year, Olawishina Okinsami, went on to the final and won the People's Choice Awards, wowing the audience in Birmingham with his expertly timed and flawlessly delivered presentation. We're delighted that Olawishina has joined us tonight as part of the judging panel. A special mention also to Emer Maguire, the award-winning radio presenter who joins our judging panel tonight. Finally, I must take an opportunity to thank Sarah Travers and Camilla Long from Bespoke Communications, who worked with our 14 entrants and more recently with our 8 finalists to share their knowledge and experience about how to communicate in academia. So I'll hand back to Sarah, who will tell you a little bit about the 3-minute thesis, describe the rules, the criteria, introduce the judging panel, and most importantly, introduce our 8 finalists.
Thanks so much, Marie. It has been an absolute pleasure, I have to say, working with the researchers at Ulster University. The 3MT is something that Camilla and I at Bespoke Communications really look forward to every year. This year it's been challenging, but very, very exciting. So what is the 3MT? Well, it's a research communication competition first developed by the University of Queensland over 10 years ago now. It challenges PhD researchers to present their research and its significance in just 3 minutes, using non-specialist language to a general audience. It cultivates the PhD researcher's academic, presentation, and research and communication skills. What about the rules then? Well, I can tell you a single static PowerPoint slide is permitted. No additional electronic media, for example, sound and video files, are permitted. No additional prompts are allowed. Presentations are limited to the 3 minutes maximum, and competitors exceeding 3 minutes are disqualified. Presentations are to be spoken, no poems, raps or songs allowed, and presentations are considered to have commenced when the presenter starts their presentation. The judging criteria is very detailed, but just to sum up, it is centred around 2 key areas. So 1, comprehension and content, and 2, engagement and communication. All competitors are judged on these criteria using an individual scoring sheet. Would you like to meet our judges? Well, next up, the judging panel I can introduce to you for this year's virtual 3MT are Professor Cathy Gormley-Heenan, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Marie Murphy, Dean of Postgraduate Research and Director of the Doctoral College. Next up, we have Tim Brundle, Director of Research and Impact, Oluwashina Akinsamni, PhD researcher and winner of last year's final and the UK 3MT People's Choice Award winner. And we're delighted, Oluwashina, to have you on the panel. And last of all, our guest judge this year is Emer Maguire. Emer is an award-winning radio broadcaster, science communicator and comedian. So what do you win if you win the 3MT? Well, the prizes. The winner of the 3MT will receive a trophy and a prize of £300. The runner-up and the People's Choice winner will also receive a prize, a cash prize of £100 and a trophy. So without further ado, let's get on to the 2020 3MT final and meet our finalists in alphabetical order. Are you ready? Well, first of all, I can tell you, up from Niche, the School of Biomedical Sciences, the Faculty of Life and Health Sciences, we have Orla Fiann. Her 3MT title is Vitamin Deficiency in Nursing Home Residents, Small Change, Big Impact in a Forgotten Group. Orla is based at the Coleraine campus. Her supervisors are Dr. Emer McSorley, Dr. Kirsty Pershahidi and Dr. Pamela McGee from Niche, and also Dr. David Armstrong from the Western Trust.
Never has it been more evident that nursing home residents are sadly a forgotten group, and yet these people are the heroes who have helped shape the world we live in today. My PhD focuses on vitamin D and the importance of this nutrient for the health of older adults living in nursing homes. Vitamin D is an exceptional nutrient known best for helping calcium absorb into our bones to make them stronger. But did you know vitamin D is also important for our muscles, helps reduce our chances of falling and even aids the immune system? We get the majority of the vitamin D we need from the sun and very little through the diet. And unfortunately, Northern Ireland isn't known for its sunny climate, and therefore we are at risk of not getting enough vitamin D. Nursing home residents who can't or don't get outside are therefore at an even greater risk of vitamin D deficiency, and yet are still overlooked in research. I'm delighted to say that my PhD will provide important data on the vitamin D status of older adults living in nursing homes and relate this to markers of bone and muscle health. With this information, I will help nursing home catering staff enhance their menus with vitamin D rich foods. I will supplement vitamin D deficient residents and find out how much vitamin D is needed and for how long in order to boost their vitamin D stores. These are all important clinical questions that medical doctors have asked us to answer for them. Do you remember when I said earlier that vitamin D was also important for the immune system? Well, in response to the ongoing global pandemic, we have an exciting new opportunity to follow up the residents from my research and find out if having a higher vitamin D status protected them from contracting coronavirus or aided in their recovery, further enhancing the clinical impact of my research. Of course, we can't say that vitamin D is the secret to one of our most recent heroes, Captain Tom Moore, but as you can see from the slide, we do believe that boosting vitamin D through diet and supplementation could be the small change that could have a big impact on the daily lives of residents. One small change to help this vulnerable group do the small things, like feed or dress themselves, the small things that we take for granted every day. This could improve the quality of their lives, as simple as that. These nursing home residents, our parents, grandparents, siblings and friends, they baked us our favourite cookies and kissed our bruises when we fell. They looked after us, and now it's our time to show them that they are not a forgotten group, that we do value them in research, and that we can help them by boosting the vitamin D status of nursing home residents through supplementation. Thank you.
Well done to Orla. It's never easy going first, is it? But we are underway now. And following Orla, our second competitor tonight, second finalist, is Natalie Flint. Natalie is from the Languages and Linguistics Department. That's the School of Communications, Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. Her 3MT title is Knowledge is Power: How Teenagers Resist Parental Authority. Natalie is based at Jordanstown. Her supervisors are Dr. Catherine Rees and Dr. Karen Stapleton.
The World Health Organization has found that half of all mental health conditions start by the age of 14, and one piece of advice we regularly hear is to connect and communicate. But this can be incredibly difficult for both teenagers and their parents, as many struggle in their day-to-day interactions, seeming to always be at odds. I'm sure you've all been in situations where something tiny and sometimes trivial has suddenly exploded. I study these small triggers that can cause communication breakdown between teenagers and their parents. My research uses conversation analysis, an observational method that closely examines recordings of real conversations from consenting participants, analysing not only what is being said, but also how it's being said. Through this detailed analysis, I have identified a common theme: authority. Parents express their identity as parents by invoking the authority that stems from their parental rights and obligations. Let me give you a concrete example. On the slide is a real conversation between a mother and her 14-year-old daughter Melissa. Here, Melissa is doing her homework, and Mum begins to issue a threat. In interactions like these, parents demonstrate their rights and obligations to parent their teenagers. However, teenagers resist this type of authority. In this case, Melissa recognises that Mum's turn was heading towards producing a threat and interrupts it to challenge the basis of the threat. She demonstrates that when it comes to schoolwork, she knows more than her mother. By demonstrating this knowledge, she presents herself not as a daughter or as a child, but as a student. In the conversations I've studied, this pattern regularly occurs. Parents do things in talk that assert their authority with the rights to influence their teenage children's behaviour. But teenagers do not see authority this way. Instead, they use their knowledge as a competing form of authority to actively resist their parents. For teenagers, knowledge is power. They use their independent knowledge to assert their autonomy and identify as experts in some other field, whether this is a hobby, sport, or schoolwork. My research shows very precisely how conversations like these can quickly break down. Parents focus on their rights and obligations, and teenagers attempt to demonstrate their expertise. But neither party properly engages with the other side's point of view. They hear, but don't listen. So the solution I have to offer is clear. We all need to listen to each other much more carefully, and that includes parents. Both parental rights and teenage expertise are valid forms of authority, and both parties need to appreciate the other side's point of view. So by listening closer and fully engaging, we can improve how we connect and communicate, and ultimately improve teenage mental health.
Our third finalist, ladies and gentlemen, is Shane Harrigan. Shane is from the Cognitive Robotics group, that's the School of Computing, Engineering and Intelligent Systems, that's the Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment. His 3MT title is Neuromorphic Vision. Vision has never been clearer. And Shane is based at the McGee campus. His supervisors are Professor Sonia Coleman, Dr. Dermot Kerr, and Dr. Prathipan Yogaraja.
The human body is one of the most advanced engineering projects that Mother Nature has ever undertaken. And our eyes are one of the most potent sensors that we have available to us for navigating the world around us. And they're far more powerful than even the cameras you might find in the most advanced £1,000 smartphones. And that's largely because those cameras are based off of theories and principles developed in the 1940s and the 60s. That's over 80 years, and it's 2020. We need a new pace. The entire point of neuromorphic vision is to take cameras and try and make them act like our eyes, because our eyes are the most powerful vision sensors that we have. And a few years ago, a group of researchers got together and realized this dream and produced cameras which do behave like our eyes and give information to computers just like our eyes give information to our brain. But that presents an additional challenge, which is where my work comes into play. Because you see, our eyes don't communicate through pictures like in our smartphones, they instead communicate through little electrical signals. Little electrical signals tell your brain that the spider just walked across the wall even when you weren't paying attention, and you look at it. You look at it before you even know you're looking. And that's because these little sensors in our eyes that send information back to our brain through these little electrical signals are very good and well designed for what they do, which is to keep us alive by letting us know about what's happening in the world around us. So the idea in my work is I evaluate these signals and try and develop ways like our brain for how a computer can interpret this information. If we want computers to achieve more human goals, then they need to have more humanistic traits, like how they perceive the world. One big thing that I've been able to achieve in my work is the detection of robotic motion and breathing. So just think about that. Whereas your standard cameras might take pictures, compare pictures, and determine how someone's breathing that way, I can detect if someone's breathing through just little electrical signals. That's extremely powerful, particularly in areas where we care about getting information as fast as possible. Imagine if self-driving cars all had Formula One drivers' eyes looking ahead of the road, predicting what they need to do. That's the potential that these cameras offer. And again, in the breathing experiment, being able to place these type of cameras in sensitive areas like nursing homes and daycare centers and track people's breathing without ever having to worry about someone watching the video feed of our loved ones has massive benefits to us all. Our eyes are advanced and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We looked at millions of years of evolution to develop these cameras, and my work is foundational in allowing us to use the data we get from these devices to help computers better understand the world and achieve more human goals. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you listening to me. Have a great day and stay healthy.
Well done, Shane. Our next finalist tonight is Nexo Hernandez Cruz from the School of Computing, Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment. And Netza's 3MT title is Teaching Gadgets to Keep Our Grandparents Safe in a Social Distancing World. Very relevant. Netza is based at Jordanstown. His supervisors are Professor Chris Nugent, Dr. Shui Zhang and Dr. Ian McChesney.
Back in the day when I was a little boy, I used to visit my grandparents after school. I remember my granny cutting vegetables while cooking and carefully walking from one room to another. Honestly, I felt comfortable knowing they were safe because I was there if an accident never happened. But what if I couldn't be around? I can't imagine all the anxiety, frustration, and worry of not being able to look after them, which unfortunately is what many people is facing right now with the coronavirus pandemic. According to the Office of National Statistics, there are 12 million people over the age of 60 in the UK, which represents 3 out of 10 citizens who might require regular supervision on a daily basis. So how can we keep our loved ones safe when social distancing implies that we can't be there physically? Well, that's where my research fits in. I write software that can recognize changes in a grandparent's motor behavior, changes that could lead to accidents at home. For example, if my software detects that a user experiences erratic displacement or loss of balance when walking, it alerts the family by sending a report with the frequency and intensity of this phenomena so they can proceed with an early intervention. This isn't an idea out of thin air. Normally, these pieces of software rely on two elements. First, they need sensing data like audio, images, and acceleration, which reflects the movement of our bodies when walking. Then they need to find the patterns within the sensing data. For example, in the slide we can see a sequence of acceleration signal going up and down. Those are called peaks and valleys, from where we can interpret it that a person walks for a few steps, loses a bit of balance, and then recovers his pace. Because every one of us is different, the problem with current approaches is that each smartphone and smartwatch need to be personalized to every user, which is time-consuming, expensive, and therefore not available to everyone. My research, however, aims to solve this problem. I propose to use a teacher-student methodology in which gadgets train other gadgets. To put it clearly, it's like the way children learn at school, where there is a single teacher with a broad amount of knowledge and many students waiting to ask specific questions. The methodology starts by choosing the device with high expertise as a teacher, who then provides the students with the patterns of data to understand the activities that a particular user is performing. This technique repeats every time a new parameter pops in, which makes it scalable and sustainable. I am confident that through my research, we can accelerate the development of this vital technology to prevent accidents at home, so we all can look after our loved ones even when social distancing keeps us apart. Thank you.
How fabulous. Thank you so much. Well, moving on. And now we have Fiona Marshall. She's our next finalist in the 3MT competition. Fiona is from the Faculty of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment based at Jordanstown. Her 3MT title is Caring for Our Vulnerable, Automatic Detection of Agitation. And Fiona's supervisors are Dr. Shui Zhang and Professor Brian Scotney.
Mahatma Gandhi said that the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted that some of the most vulnerable in our society are the elderly. As we live longer and the proportion of older people increases, we need to find new and innovative ways to care for everyone, ensuring that no one is left behind. Dementia is a disease of the wasting of the mind that disproportionately affects older people. It's a thief who creeps in and bit by bit steals the person whom we love. Its victims are left bereft of memories, isolated and often agitated. I'm using video to automatically detect agitation in people living with dementia, creating a system to supplement existing care by monitoring the frequency and intensity of agitated episodes. This will alert carers and help them understand the causes and extent of the agitation. It's the first research to focus on agitated hand movements, such as scratching and picking, which are some of the most common forms of agitation. To ensure clinical relevance, I've utilised behavioural research and sought guidance from experienced clinicians. Using video, we can represent a person as a stickman. This reduces each frame of the video from around 5 million pixels to a handful of joints, simplifying calculations whilst protecting privacy by not retaining images. Video cameras are cheap and widely available, and I've shown that this approach is as effective as using specialist sensors. Machine learning is used to train the system to recognise agitation. By showing it a range of examples of different behaviours, both agitated and not, it can learn characteristic movements. When shown a new example, the system will determine which behaviour it most closely resembles. Obtaining videos of agitation is a challenge. I'm working with clinicians to record agitation whilst tailoring my approach not to rely on lots of examples. However, recognising movement requires each example to contain a sequence of stickmen, not just a single image. This complicates the recognition process, requiring more examples. Also, as fingers are not always visible, the system needs to deal with missing and inaccurate joints.
My system will alert carers when a person becomes agitated, enabling intervention before the agitation escalates. This will help prevent injury whilst relieving pressure on carers and reliance on medication. It will provide an accurate record of agitation that can inform care choices. How a society treats its vulnerable is always a measure of its humanity. My research is part of a global endeavour seeking to use technology to care for the elderly, helping us all to live better for longer.
Congratulations, Fiona. You can relax now as we move on to our next competitor, and that is Niv McConaughey from the School of Art and Design, Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, based at Belfast. Her 3MT title, Between the Lines of Communication, the lived experience of chronic pain. Niv's supervisors are Professor Karen Fleming, Dr. Justin McGee and Dr. Pamela Whittaker.
Chronic pain affects around 1 in every 5 people worldwide. So for those of you watching this recording, it's very likely that either you or someone you love experiences it. Whether that's your friend living with arthritis or your mother living with lower back pain. Northern Ireland has the highest number of chronic pain cases in the UK and the longest waiting list times, which makes effective self-management extremely important. From experience, I understand the importance of how a long-term health condition is communicated, not only for family and friends to be able to understand and connect with your experience, but also for clinicians to effectively plan management strategies. Chronic pain is complex though. It affects you both physically and mentally, which makes disruption to daily routine common and can include things like the inability to conduct household chores, maintain employment, or even having more arguments with loved ones. These issues though can not only be the result of pain experience but can actually also influence it as well. So how does someone go about communicating the many physical, mental and social influencing and affecting factors of pain when things like the fear of being believed might also be in play? Not to mention, it's widely argued that pain resists vocabulary because a person can't get that sensory confirmation in which to understand it fully. That's where the arts come in. My research combines visual mark making and abstract poetry to construct an individualised form of pain language. A person with pain quickly draws what they feel best reflects their pain experience in a daily journal. Then, using texts that are based on health communication, a person chooses words or phrases that they feel both reflect their pain experience and of their drawing. Constructing these words into a type of visual poem, a person is then left with a titled visual representation of their unique pain experience. This research ultimately aims to provide a more effective method of pain communication within clinical settings. This could lead to a more comprehensive understanding of that lived experience of pain that may lead to more accurate methods of management planning. In a preliminary research study, these methods were evidenced to produce therapeutic benefit like the relief and the release of externalising that inner pain experience. They created a heightened awareness of those influencing and affecting factors that I was talking about as people began to link their physical, mental and social factors of pain together. This created an extremely expressive and personal pain dialogue within the group and enhanced the communicational quality of those issues of pain that are often seen as difficult or vulnerable to express. To conclude, I'll quote participant 4, who after this period of discussion, reflection and creating, described her image that's seen in the slide as this. This is a person who I want to be. I know people think I'm confident, but I'm not really. This is the person who I want to be all the time.
Next up, we have Emma Nolan for you from the School of Psychology, Faculty of Life and Health Sciences. And Emma's 3MT title is How Does That Make You Feel? The psychological staple that continues to prompt research. Emma is based at the Coleraine campus. Her supervisors are Professor Mark Shevlin and Dr. Orla McBride.
You make a call, you get an automated response that runs through an array of numbers, but none of the questions were what you required. You reset with 0. Imagine this on a larger scale in the field of mental health research. When it comes to research in mental health conditions, I've noticed that we're not always asking the questions people require. My name is Emma Nolan and my research investigates how asking a better question affects results and in turn our understanding of the development of mental health disorders. I focus on a phenomenon known as psychotic experiences, and currently in understanding psychotic experiences, we often only focus on the frequency or the type of experience. So think of this. Have you ever heard something that nobody else heard, or seen something that nobody else could see? Maybe you were worried people were talking about you in a negative way. You might say yes to these, as they can be an example of an everyday experience that we don't think twice about, but they're also examples of psychotic experiences and used as indicators of serious mental health conditions. So why should we explore these experiences? Psychotic experiences are associated with the development of many mental health disorders, substance abuse, suicide risk, depression, and they have a strong relationship with the prediction of schizophrenia, which according to the World Health Organization is the third most debilitating health condition globally. But the important observation here is that not everybody who experiences a psychotic experience will develop a mental health disorder. Our current way of assessment is not an accurate predictor of risk. In fact, research shows that the prevalence rates of psychotic experiences varies between 4 and 45%. Only 7% will develop a disorder. So we need to change the way that we distinguish possible patients from non-patients in the early stages. We need better questions. My research extends current assessments to not only ask, have you experienced this, but also how distressed were you by this? What happens to the prevalence rates and our understanding when we ask this question? How do we better determine risk? We don't really know what psychotic experiences are or how they can be understood to inform a clinical context, but we do know that the way in which we assess these experiences directly impacts prevalence rates, which is a great concern for public health understanding, awareness and treatment. I investigate psychotic experiences associated with distress, and we have found that those experiences associated with distress significantly increase your chance of developing anxiety and depression. This distinction of distress has created a more detailed and specific pattern of results in terms of clinical relevance. So why does this matter? It is only by uncovering this evidence that we can address and understand the development of these experiences, how they can be used to predict a mental health disorder, equip the developers of diagnostic manuals and our clinicians with the knowledge they need to tackle this problem at its source. These findings will help our understanding in the epidemiology of mental health disorders, inform our understanding of who is at risk, and in turn, more accurate interventions.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe it. We move on now to our final finalists for the 2020 virtual 3MT competition at Ulster. And the last competitor is Shane Reid. Shane is from the Cognitive Robotics Group, School of Computing Engineering and Intelligent Systems, from the Faculty of Computing Engineering and Built Environment. Shane is going to talk us through now his presentation. It's entitled Social Signal Processing for Automated Suicide Prevention. Shane's based at McGee. His supervisors, Professor Sonia Coleman, Professor Siobhan O'Neill, Dr. Dermot Kerr, and Dr. Philip Vance. Over to you, Shane.
I want you to imagine that you work in a surveillance room at one of the UK's largest train stations. Your screen is filled with a sea of faces, but your eye is drawn to just one. This guy in image 1. He is standing at the end of the platform and away from the other passengers. He seems to be staring out at the tracks as though lost in thought, and you notice he's left his jacket on the ground. These things may seem innocent to you, but each of these behaviours are actually indicators that his life is at risk. We call these behaviours social signals, and every one of us exhibits hundreds of them every day. By reading someone's social signals, we can make predictions about what they are going to do next. In 1967, Muhammad Ali gave Ernie Terrell one of the most brutal beatings in boxing history. Image 2 was taken during the weigh-in, just before the fight, and shows this dynamic at play. We can see Ali on the left appears angry and intimidating, while Terrell on the right appears more meek and fearful. If I was around back then and I'd seen this photo, I would have money on Ali. So if we can read someone's social signals and tell what they're going to do next, then could we use this knowledge to prevent shoplifting, assault, or even a suicide attempt? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. A single video feed could contain upwards of 100 people, and monitoring the social signals of that many people with one surveillance officer is almost impossible. But what if we could get machines to do it for us? If the Terminator movies have taught me anything, It's that computers tend to struggle when it comes to understanding human emotion. My research aims to fill that gap by training an artificial intelligence system to detect social signals that indicate when someone is in trouble. To do this, I had to solve two key research problems. The first was to teach the system to recognize social signals relating to head pose, as this would give us an idea as to where that person's attention is focused, and that might tell us what they will do next. The second was to develop a method to detect simple activities, such as walking and running, so we can teach the system what combinations of these activities it needs to look out for before an event occurs. However, it wasn't just a matter of solving these problems, but doing so in a way that was fast enough to work in real time. Therefore, I developed techniques based on the concept of key point estimation, shown in image 3. This is where we take an image of an individual and reduce it into a set of coordinates, which correspond to joints such as the elbows and shoulders. Currently, I am applying my techniques to real-world datasets to try and predict several different events, such as assault, shoplifting, as well as suicidal behaviours, so that countless lives can be saved. In the future, my techniques will be the lifeguard for those currently drowning within that sea of faces.
Fantastic, Shane. Well done. Well, they were the finalists, and how amazing, Shane, finishing off all of our presentations. Thank you so much to all of our finalists. It has been such a treat to hear about all the wonderful research that you're doing at Ulster and seeing just how significant this research is and how invaluable it is to making things better for people in society here. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you've put into the presentations, especially this year in the virtual world. Now, the judges will soon be announcing their decision on who they think was the best. Runner-up and winner will be decided by the judges, but remember, the people's choice will be decided by you, our virtual audience, at the very end of this tonight. For now, though, I'm going to hand over to Professor Cathy Gormley-Heenan, Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Chair of the judging panel, to give us her thoughts and indeed the thoughts of the judging panel. Cathy.
On behalf of the judging panel, I'd like to share some thoughts on this year's final, which was just outstanding again. First of all, I was really delighted to be able to welcome two new judges this year. Firstly, Orla, who won last year's final at Ulster University and who went on to win the UK's People Choice Award. Welcome to the competition, Orla. And also Emer Maguire, who is the award-winning radio broadcaster, science communicator and comedian. And Emer, it's just been great to have you join us today as part of the judging panel also. I think for all of us on the panel, reflecting on the quality and the calibre of our finalists today drew out a lot of lessons for us. The range of presentations that we've seen, the range of subject areas, the really high standard of communication across the board, and the way that almost everyone connected their research to the current circumstances that we find ourselves in with the pandemic and with the lockdown. I've learned a lot. I could repeat a lot of the research. It was so well communicated. And of course, that's what this competition is very much about. That communication is key. So I want to say how proud we are of all of our PhD researchers for taking on the challenge of a virtual 3MT. It's hard enough to do something like this to a live audience, but I have to say self-recording a video is so much more difficult. Not to have that feedback from a live audience, not to have that rush of adrenaline when performing in front of a live audience certainly made the task that little bit more challenging and tricky for our finalists, and a challenge that they really rose to. And I also want to say that I'm proud of our doctoral college led by Marie, and the way in which we have delivered the 3MT competition at Ulster this year has been just brilliant under the expert leadership of Lisa Thompson. It's been fantastic, and I'm very proud of our doctoral college and the way in which we've managed to do this year. So I think it's safe to say that for the third year in a row, we've had a really tough job on our hands. We've had so many talented PhD researchers come forward, and we wish every single one of them could be a winner this evening. We're proud of you all, but we have decided on a winner, and a runner-up for this year's 3MT at Ulster. So Sarah, would you like to announce the winners for us?
Thank you, Kathy. I would be delighted to reveal who the winners are. Thank you so much. All so very exciting. Just wanted to say congratulations once again, everyone. But the time has come. I can now finally tell you that the runner-up in the 2020 Ulster 3MT final is Orla Fiann. Congratulations, Orla. What a fantastic presentation. Research so valuable to the health and indeed the happiness of our older members of society and their families. Well done to you. Orla is the runner-up. Moving on now to the winner of the 2020 Ulster 3MT final. According to our judges, they have decided from the School of Psychology, it is Emma Nolan. Congratulations, Emma. An outstanding achievement to win the 3MT final for Ulster for 2020. We are so pleased for you. You have won the Ulster final. And of course, Emma, you will now be entered into the UK semi-final next month to compete with the winners from other universities in the UK 3MT competition. And we will all be rooting for you, as will your fellow competitors, every step of the way. So well done to Orla and indeed to our winner, Emma. But last but not least, I can't leave you without asking you to choose the People's Choice Award. This will be chosen by you because you've registered to watch this event, in your inbox will be a link. Please tell us who you think should win the People's Choice, and we will announce the winner on Twitter shortly after 8 o'clock tonight. So not long to go. Get voting now. Well done again to Orla, well done to Emma. Thank you to all of our finalists for all their hard work, to the judges who had such a tough job, to the Doctoral College team for putting the virtual 3MT together, especially the fabulous Lisa Thompson. And finally, thanks to you, our audience. I felt you with me every step of the way, even though I couldn't see you. Goodbye from everyone at the Doctoral College, and thank you for joining us remotely for the 2020 3MT final. Don't forget, we need your vote now for the People's Choice, so check your inbox for the link. Goodbye and take care.